Shaw, Super Kid Chalmers, welcome. We're prepared for an unforgettable
D&D from A to Z, spells for you and spells for me. We will see what we will see today. Locals galore and monsters roar, nerds adore forevermore. Let's explore some ancient lore, hey hey. Welcome to the Alphabetical DM. I am the Alphabetical DM. My name is Jordan Baywood. Oh god, off the rails immediately. So, I record this live with no edits, which make things like that difficult. What are you going to do though, right? You could, I suppose, one could record and then edit and then post, but no, that's ridiculous. It reeks of effort. Reeks of it. I should say, at the top of the show, that this is one in which I nonsensically rate every monster, every spell, every location that exists within the Forgotten Realms. Why? Why do I do such a thing? I don't know. Why do I do that in alphabetical order? Also, curious. Very curious. I also have a main subject, which we will get to after I say that just about everything I say in this episode will be an opinion. So please keep that in mind, because, you know, some of the things I say you will no doubt today Junior disagree with. So, you know what you could do? If that scenario arises, is you could let me know in the Underdark down below what you disagree with, as I am curious. And also, you know what, I should say this at the top of the show, just in case people don't make it to the Q&A section. If you have Dungeons and Dragons related questions, usually I like ones revolving around story related stuff as opposed to just rules stuff, although I will take all comers. Please also throw those in the Underdark below, and I will do them on the show in the Q&A section, which is later, which is perhaps why episode 5 episodes in, from my perspective, have dropped, as they say in the biz, and I haven't yet had a question, which questions my questions. Moving on to, oh, what a horrible goddamn segue. The Witcher, the book series. Yes, did you know it was a book series before it was a video game? Before? Yeah, pretty sure. Oh, yeah. So, if you're unfamiliar with how I sort of do the episodes, choose the episodes, I go back and forth. I rotate every other one between a sort of one-off main subjects and then subjects where I can sort of have multiple episodes. So this one is called main subject fantasy novels 1. Yeah, so basically what I'm going to do is when I am done reading a fantasy novel or series, probably series more often than not, just because I enjoy a series when it comes to fantasy novels, I'll bring it back here and we'll talk about it. Specifically in this case, the Witcher series. Now I should say, let's have a look at this. I read The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny, Blood of Elves, Time of Contempt, and about half of Baptism of Fire. On that note, I should say, wait, is that right? I feel like I maybe read that one as well. Anyways, I read 4.5 of them, or 3.5 of them, and this series started out amazing. I loved it. It's by Mr. And I think by the end I learned to say it, at least believably, Andrzej Sapkowski, which is probably way off, but it's a Polish name and therefore difficult for me to pronounce, as I am not Polish. Yeah. Started off book 1, loved it. Book 2, he did something amazing, which was, I believe it was book 2. I don't like in my fantasy anything political. When it gets into the sort of political drama, I just sort of zone out. I don't like it in real life. Fantasy and D&D and video games and TV and movies, I am using those as escape from the horrors of reality. So part of that is politics, which I don't find interesting in real life, and that non-interest transfers over to fiction as excuse me, fiction as well. So he did something in one of these books, I believe it was the second one that I read, anyways, where it was the Witcher, the titular Witcher, the titular Witcher. Man, that's a good band name. Was at a like a party with sort of royalty and political types, and he managed to make it interesting, which I think is maybe the first time ever that I was reading about sort of political intrigue and the inner turmoil and the passive aggressive sort of stuff like that, and he made it interesting. So for that, I will say, wow. And in general, the first 2-3 books very much liked. I reviewed them on my podcast as well, and I think some 4s and 5s out of 5s is over there. But then it got to the last book I read, and did something that I almost never do, and that's I couldn't finish it. It just it did something very strange. It was this picture: you're reading a book series, and you're very much enjoying it. You know, you've got Witcher, you've got Ciri, you've got some characters you know if you've played the video games, and then suddenly he introduces a whole giant cast of other characters that, frankly, I didn't care about at all. I found myself just skipping entire sections of the book to get to ones in which focused on the characters that I was there to read about. So I actually stopped eventually because the and that was the other thing. Like, it was, if it was like 50-50, maybe I could have done it, but it felt like it was like 75% characters I didn't care about and 25% I did. So eventually I had to give up. So it's funny because I decided to do The Witcher as my choice for the first the first fantasy series that I was going to talk about when I was, I think, in book 1 or book 2, because I was enjoying them so much. And normally I don't bring things back to my podcast that I don't like. So the fact that I'm doing so here makes me feel bad and guilty for saying I didn't like a thing. So I'm going to move on. Oh yeah, let's look at some. Oh yeah, isn't that Henry Cavill? Is that who's going to be playing The Witcher? And is it Amazon or Netflix? Netflix. Yeah, play the video games. Witcher 3, one of the greatest video games ever made, and read some of the books as well. And I think you'll have enjoyment, and maybe you'll have more enjoyment than I did the further you go on. Hey, they're good books. Moving on. Yes, and then another in a long line of adult dragons, specifically, as the color indicates, assuming you're able to discern color, the green dragon. Or it also says green dragon right there. Maybe you're just listening to this, and that's allowed. This could be a podcast, I suppose. Okay, so challenge rating 15. What's it excel at here? Very strong as a dragon is. Get some natural armor. Amphibious. Multi-attack. Nothing blowing me away yet. Frightful presence. Pretty standard. Poison breath is fun. 60-foot cone. Yeah. That's fun. So far, what I'm seeing here, nothing blowing me away too much. So the rating for this particular monster, not going to be so high. The most cunning and treacherous of true dragons. Okay, I like that. Anytime an enemy can use its brains over bronze, quite often makes for a more difficult battle than something that's just going to go in a swinging. Lair actions. Ooh, grasping roots and vines, 20-foot radius. That's pretty cool. That it control. How about a green dragon that has also learned the druidly arts and uses things like this and maybe other plant-based spells? I actually, in my last campaign, had a plant-based dragon, which was green in color. It wasn't technically a green dragon that could sort of control plants and stuff like that. So, regional effects, labyrinth. Ooh, it gets a labyrinth. That's pretty fun. I wonder if the Goblin King's in there. A little Bowie action. Rodents and birds serve as the dragon's eyes and ears. Ooh, okay, so it's going to be hard to sneak up on this guy. Hunters. Okay, good hunters. Schemers. Conflict and corruption. What's living? Oh, yeah, living treasure. A green dragon's favorite treasure are the sentient creatures it bends to his will, including significant figures such as popular heroes, well-known sages, and renowned bards. That's cool. Okay, so started off kind of boring, but one thing I like of Dungeons and Dragons, and this being a dragon, is the fact that you could take this sort of stuff here, this stat block, and read it, and not too much is dissimilar from all the other dragons. But then you can get down into the lore, and things suddenly get very, very exciting and different. And another thing you could do is ignore all this and create your own to fit what you want it to do. So, but this is cool. The living treasure thing in particular I like. So rating wise, it's convoluted ratings, as I like to do from time to time. Started out as a 2, made it up to a 2 to 4.4. Yeah, 4.4. I enjoy the sounds of this green dragon. Moving on to spell, anti-magic field. Ooh, that's exciting. Dealing in spells and having anti-magic right off the bat. That's a point right there. 10-foot radius, invisible sphere of anti-magic surrounds you. The area is divorced from the magical energy that suffuses the multiverse. Oh, yeah, this is a big description here. Within the sphere, spells can't be cast. Summon creatures disappear. Now, ooh, that's a question. Is it like I'm picturing a holodeck like thing where a summoned creature sort of reaches its hand in and its hand disappears, but then if it reaches it back out, it reappears. That's sort of a cool thought. And even magic items become mundane. Is that unlimited? Interesting. Until the spell ends, the spear moves with you, centered on you. What level is this thing? 8th. Okay, that explains it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of rules. Anytime you're taking away one of the main things involved in a game like this, there's probably going to be a lot of rules. Yeah, spells suppress, target effects, spells of other magic missile, charm person, no effect. Yeah, like you could probably boil this down a lot too. There's just no magic. Anything that is magic is gone. But I think they have to be very specific. It's very specific. For example, wall of fire suppressed. Any magical effects on a creature. So if I am using a spell like shape change, for example, and I enter this field, I guess that spell would turn off. Turn off is sort of an interesting way of thinking of it as well. Magic items, yes. Magic teleportation. Oh, okay. So what if you're in, what's the name of that mansion? Mordecaine's mansion? I forget what it's called. And you turn this on. Are you expelled? A portal to another location, world, or plane temporarily closes. Doesn't give specific examples. I would say you're expelled. Yeah, probably. Dispel magic. You can't dispel it with dispel magic. Yeah, very, very powerful. Concentration up to 1 hour. Yeah, very, very cool. Geez, so much can be done with it. It's like the mind boggles. I don't know if I've given a spell a 5 out of 5 yet, but anti-magic field. Yeah, gonna get a 5 out of 5. And I think pretty easily, just because of the sheer amount of potential for just what it can do, or rather what it can undo. Imagine, I was just thinking, say you give one of your PCs who likes to use this a little bauble of some sort, or maybe a weapon, or a piece of clothing, anything really, and then you sort of have within this little, let's make it a necklace. Within this necklace is magic that has trapped a demon. So the first time they cast the spell, that magic that's trapping this demon disappears and the demon pours forth. There's a ways around everything as a DM, and that's just a dumb one. Yeah, okay, so some cool images. Let's move on to...
At your destination.
Ah, the Adamantine Palace, no doubt home to Wolverine. The Adamantine Palace was the seat and power of the monarchs who reigned over the Dwarven kingdom of Avramardar, located within the royal city of Splendoremorn. God, these fantasy names. Constructed extremely rare and nearly indestructible black ally. I don't know why I pictured adamantine like silver in color. I guess probably from the schnicket of Wolverine's claws. Engravings, gold, silver. Okay, so cool dwarven castle, royal castle, made out of a nearly indestructible substance. Jeez, let's have a look at this. Apparently there's a book named after it. Interesting. Rating wise, I think I'll go a solid 4.0002. Meant to make that shorter. Forgot to do so. Okay, so if you're a first time, welcome to episode 12, you weirdo, for jumping on this episode. I love you for that. I will always love you for that. I will say that this scenario segment is one in which I take the monster, I take the spell, I take the location, I jam them together. Some sort of peanut butter and jam, and we'll count the bread as the third thing scenario that you could perhaps use in a campaign. You could use maybe in a backstory, or just for inspiration for your D&D creations, whatever they may be. And I've called this one Free Fantasy Willy. Free Fantasy Willy. I should mention, if you watched last episode and this one, I wrote, and this goes for a lot of the episodes now that I think about it, I sort of write the show notes, and then they sit there for a while, and I sort of forget what I write. So I'm sort of reading this with fresh eyes a little bit. We'll see what we see. Like any long abandoned dwarven stronghold, the Adamantine Palace has had several inhabitants. True. Most recently, an adult green dragon has taken up residence, although I've written resistance because I am dumb. When it realized the nearly indestructible walls would offer the perfect opportunity for its living treasures. Oh yeah, because it likes that. AKA rare creatures and humanoids that it kept in a sort of fantasy zoo. Ooh, I like this. Fucking idiot. This is something I wrote and now I'm enjoying. The dragon would create magical plant-based translucent walls to keep the beings in their cells. Interesting. And as its favorite food was elves, it would often end up feeding the leftovers to those stuck in the zoo who ate meat. Gross. That is gross. This, of course, meant he ate more elves than your standard green dragon, so a powerful elven wizard volunteered to be captured, and once in the lair, cast a Antimagic fields. Spelled wrong, I don't care, better than having it completely wrong. Anti-magic field on himself, freeing not only him, but upon running along the length of magical cages, released all the captured who used the opportunity to band together and destroy the evil green dragon. And I'm gonna go once and for all. Yeah. Alright, this is fine. This is fine, he says about something he wrote. The one thing I like particularly that you could take and use for other things is the idea of a fantasy zoo. I very much like. And I think I maybe have used it before. It sort of rings a bell. That I've used this idea before, but there's so much potential for what's in the zoo. How do you get them out? Why does it even exist? I really like that as a base, and then build crazy stuff like this from that base. Moving on to questions and answers. Again, I will say viewer in quotes still, as 5 episodes have dropped from my perspective, and I haven't yet had a question posted in the Underdark below. Once that hopefully eventually happens, I will pull questions from here on YouTube or Vimeo, wherever you're watching this. But until that happens, if that happens, I will continue to do as I have done in the past and take questions from Facebook D&D related groups, of which I'm a member of way too many probably. This one was, what method do you use for ability score generation and why? Which is not an unusual question in these types of groups. I think it's maybe newer DMs. It falls into two categories: newer DMs trying to figure out which method they want to go with, or the somewhat more annoying one, which I hate it when people do this. People will ask the question and then give their answer, which is always just feels to me like they just want to say what their method is, and why don't you just do that rather than say, here is my question of a thing. Oh, and by the way, here is how I answer the thing. It always sort of irks me a little bit. But this one was a little more, it didn't have that feeling, so I chose it. And plus, I think I have a interesting answer, something I've done in my most recent campaign. This is a custom method I've come up with that fits the type of campaigns I want to run. So basically, I like my players to be both very good at things and also very bad at things. So like, I want a good range of things. So I've created this, I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. So the good, you choose what ability score you want to be 18. Normally, the cap for that cap for scores is normally 20, but the cap for that score is now 22. I give feats at level 1. But both that feat and any racial modifiers you have cannot raise this above 11. You're just sort of picking a score. That score is 18. You're level 1 with an 18. You're going to be very powerful at that to start, and going on, who knows? You could get all the way up to that 22 with not too much difficulty. Okay, the bad. You choose what ability score you want to be, a 7. That's bad. There are only 2 ways to raise this. A magic item that raises that ability. So say if you get, you choose charisma as your 7 and get a hat that's really cool looking hat that gives you a +1 to a charisma. You could wear that and that would raise it to an 8. So still you're only going to be at an 8. Or once you reach level 8, basically I don't want this bad affected by ability score improvements, but if you choose a feat that would raise it, you can do so. Basically, I'm not saying that the players are going to have this 7 from level 1 to 20. They can, if they hate it so much, they can spend a feat on it. But my sort of desire is to have these super powerful, high-level characters, when they reach those levels, still be bad at things. And this allows me to have them bad at certain things, which I think is important for a DM to have. If your player is absolutely powerful at every single thing, it's not going to be fun for you, the DM, and it might be fun for the player. I'm not going to say it's not going to be fun. It's just, it's fun to not always be good in a game such as this. So that allows me to do that. And then the ugly is just the remaining. So I did 14, 13, 12, 11. You can place those wherever you want. They are affected by racial modifiers. Also, say if I choose intelligence to be my 18, and I choose a race that has +2 to intelligence, that wouldn't affect it, but then I can move that +2 to one of these. Ditto with the bad, although I'm not quite sure you would choose the bad for something your racial modifiers would affect. I suppose you could. Something I like of this as well, gives you there's still some impetus for you to choose a race that is traditionally good at a certain class, but it's not as necessary with this method, meaning you could have that gnome barbarian be make a little more sense, for example, because you could put your 18 in strength, and then you'd have those 2, I believe a gnome is +2 to intelligence, pretty sure, to throw somewhere in the ugly. Yeah, so that's my method. I like it, and I think I'm going to continue to use it. It also does something I like, which is have everyone start off on the same foot. Because with rolls, you could potentially have players with very high and potentially players with very low, and trying to balance encounters with that is less. It's doable. It's just less easy. So it's nice to have everyone on the same foot initially, just in terms of ability scores. So far, I've done it with my players, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the badness at things, because it's fun to see when they're excited to be so good at something, and then the other side of the scale realize that they have to. That's something else it does with a low score like this. They have to be a little more tactical, a little more prudent than they would otherwise if they're just sort of good at anything. So I like it. If you like it, let me know. Try it for yourself, and let me know how it goes. Why not? Moving on to this part.
It's done!
Thank you. It is done. The dishes are done, man. Episode 12, we did it. We're a dozen in, if you can believe it. Probably, it's more behind the scenes action sort of thing. I don't know what my recording schedule is going to be like going forward. It's going to be one a week from your perspective. I'm just sort of thinking out loud how I'm going to record these. My sort of plan is to record 2 at a time, back to back. That seems to work. This is obviously, I recorded 11 and a 12. Back to back, just to give you a little behind the scenes action. And I'll think I'll do that. Anyways, that's behind the scenes. You don't need to know that. What you do need to know is things of this lovely organization, TakeThis.org, dealing with those with mental health issues, as well as sort of combining with the world of gaming. So obviously has I've got a soft spot in my heart for them for many reasons. So what I've decided to do, rather than the typical beg, borrow, and steal for likes and subscribers, is say that when we reach 100 subscribers, I will be donating $10 to this lovely organization. When we reach 200, I will be donating to this lovely organization, etc., etc. Also, probably won't, but who knows, stranger things have happened, we reach that special level where a YouTube channel starts making money, 50% of all of those monies will be going to this. So, it doesn't hurt to click a few buttons, doesn't hurt to pass it along, and in fact, in this strange case, it may help others. And as we say at the end of every show, segue, it's nice to be nice to the nice.